go. Welcome back, everyone, to another thought-provoking episode of Ballers to Balding, where, as always, we're going to have some strong takes and some weak follicles. If you enjoy the show, or even if you're just a charitable human being by nature, please like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Spotify, because really, nothing says support of independent media like watching a couple guys who celebrate canceled plans like they just won the lottery. Oscar, what's up? How you been?
Hey, Cap. I missed you. I was
in New Orleans. I went to New Orleans. New Orleans, or as us locals call it, NOLA. It's a great city. Had a great time. Nowhere else like it. The music, the people, the energy. But Ross, the food. The food is basically an incredibly delicious assault on your internal organs. That's what it is, man. Every single day there, I was like, you know what? Tonight, I'm going to take it easy. Then 6 hours later, I was elbow deep in jambalaya and crawfish and a po' boy the size of a canoe. It was horrible.
It's the best.
I swear to God, I ate like every night. My last one before I went to prison. That's how I ate. And then in the middle of the night, 1 a.m, I'm clutching my stomach, suffering through painful gumbo contractions like I'm about to give birth. It was tough. And then the beignets. You like beignets?
I like them better than my testicles.
Yeah.
That's how much
for those of you who don't know, beignets are basically what happens if a funnel cake and a donut have a love child. It's basically a big hunk of fried dough with an 8-ball of powdered sugar all over it.
It's so delicious. It's so delicious.
Beignets and you're huffing and puffing like an offensive lineman trying to tie his shoes. It's brutal.
But so delicious.
Yeah,
so
but I'm
delicious.
back. And my family is like, why don't you just have some self-control? And I'm like, okay, and why don't you come up with a cure for cancer? Yeah, right? Have you been in New Orleans? The entire city smells like fried food.
It's so good.
Or raw sewage. The parts of it that don't smell like raw sewage smell like fried. It's not the cleanest city.
I was going to say that in my experiences in Nolans are similar to yours, but I would also say that is a place like South Beach that looks a lot better at night than it does in the day.
Yes.
And smells quite a bit better in the night than it does in the day. In the night, it looks great. In the day, you wake up and you're walking around. It's very much like my body.
I was going to say, it's like us, right down to the smell.
Yeah. Once you unwrap this package, you're not going to be that happy about what you see. That's New Orleans. That's my body. I would say that about you. I think you actually have quite a nice physique there.
Physique, yeah, for a fat guy. Thanks, Ross.
No.
Oh,
You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful.
All right. Well,
Wait. I just gave you a compliment.
I'm beautiful? That's not a compliment. That's a joke.
No, but that's a compliment. And what do we always do with each other?
Yeah, you look great too, Ross.
Thanks, bud. Thanks.
Amazing.
Thanks. I appreciate
that one slide. All right. Well, I guess we get to it now. Right?
Absolutely. I've been waiting.
Douchebag of the week. Everyone's favorite. And why don't you go first?
Oh, I'm going first.
I got a great, this actually, it's a sad state of the world that it always takes like 2 minutes to think of a douchebag.
I know, it's so true.
It's so easy.
Yeah. And again, I feel like every week I say this. Mine is a no-brainer. Who am I talking about? Rashee, or also Rashweed Rice. Who is Rashee Rice? Well, for those who don't know, he is I would say he's the number 1 wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is certainly, as I said, Patty Mahomes' number 1 receiver. Had a very good Super Bowl, had a good year a couple years ago. But Rashee has always had a little bit of problems or issues with the law. The first thing that happened to him when he was in the pros is he was in a street racing incident with a Lamborghini, in which I think he lost. There was a huge multiple car collision, and Rashee did exactly what you would expect from a high-paid athlete. He flew the scene of the crime and ultimately was caught, took responsibility for it, and had 30 days jail time as well as 5 years probation. That also led to a 6-game ban from the NFL. So this is like after Rashee's first year in the pros. Also, during that time, he was sued by the mother of his 2 children for beating her up. Now, that usually triggers a question from you, Paul, of, well, was she asking for it? But no, in fact, she wasn't.
Oh, come on. Stop that.
No, it's not true. It's not true. I Josh. No, but he was knocking around a little bit. She sued him, and that that he did not have an issue with the NFL on that, but that was sort of in the background, and he stayed clean for about 18 months. And recently, i.e., within the last week, Rashid violated his probation. So remember, he had 5-year probation from the first incident. And what was he doing? Well, he was smoking the good ganj. Again, Rashid was token up on the Rush weed. Violated his probation, required him to have 30 days in jail. So he missed Kansas City's OTAs. He'll be ready for the season, though. But there is a question whether the league policy or the league rules with respect to conduct will go after him because he violated probation. Now, normally the NFL doesn't do much for against players who are smoking dope because, of course, they don't. They know how good it is, so why would they do that? But the fact of the matter is,
sometimes you're having a tough time finishing a pizza.
Yeah.
And you need some kind of medication, right?
Right. And and there's nothing better than some crunch berries after that pizza. But anyway, the reality is it's very possible the NFL could come after him because he's already been suspended for this, and now he violated probation, which technically does go against the league policy rules. So another thing for Rashid, this is a contract year, and you got to look at his team, the Kansas City Chiefs, who I don't know that anybody in this podcast or even listening to this podcast is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. However, that puts that team into a real bind because you just can't trust this guy. And you always wonder to yourself is, what are these guys thinking? I mean, this guy had the problem. He kind of moved past it. He was all set. This is his contract year, but he had to get high. He just couldn't not get high. And that's why he's a moron. He's an idiot. And most importantly, for our purposes, he is my douchebag of the week.
I mean, that's probably better than mine. It's kind of a trifecta. He could have been douchebag for the driving. He could have been douchebag for the beating up of the wife. I mean, it's almost like the weed is the smallest one by far, but it's just like the latest. And
I mean, and what are you doing? What are you doing?
In the same vein of risking your tremendous opportunity, although my douchebag is a little bit older and has done a little bit more. My douchebag of the week is the Dodgers pitcher Edwin Diaz. Now, to be fair, Diaz is not some scrub reliever. The guy has been one of the filthiest closers in baseball for a decade. 57 career saves, 149 strikeouts in just 525 innings, which is kind of an insane ratio. But lately, Edwin's been making headlines for something slightly less inspirational than his pitching. He's been catching heat after being linked to cockfighting events in Puerto Rico, which, by the way, are federally illegal, not kind of frowned upon. Yeah, go on.
We're talking about roosters, of course.
Yes.
Right? I just wanted to make sure clarified for our listeners.
Yeah. No, this is roosters. So I was going to say it's federally illegal and not frowned upon slightly or anything like that. I mean, it's illegal. There's definitely a guy near the ring whose entire job is spotting unmarked black SUVs. That's what it's. Federales, vámonos. Anyway, so apparently Diaz even has appeared in promotional posts, which means
Smart.
This man somehow looked at every possible millionaire athlete hobby on earth. Yachts and golf and Vegas and supercars and private islands and Instagram models and went, nah, I want to stand in a dirt parking lot and watch 2 chickens try to murder each other. That is such an aggressively insane use of fame to me. You're one of the best baseball players alive, and your side hobby sounds like a scene that was deleted from Narcos. Can you imagine, Ross, being the PR guy, some exhausted Dodgers crisis manager who hasn't slept in a week and has to be like, okay, Edwin, for the love of Christ, please tell me there's no footage. Because can you imagine a video of Diaz standing ringside screaming, "Come on, El Diablo, finish him, peck his eyes out." You don't come back from that.
Be like from Roots. It'd be like from Roots.
It's like, Edwin, my friend, they're chickens. You're screaming at poultry. And of course, he channeled Michael Vick with the old, "It's part of my culture." And it's like, whoa, slow down. Cockfights are currently illegal in your culture. And let's not forget that Puerto Rico also gave us beautiful beaches and salsa music, rum cocktails with the tiny umbrellas, some of the best food on earth. Yet you somehow pick the one cultural activity that ends with federal agents carrying evidence boxes out of a barn. And I was thinking, honestly, cockfighting is the dumbest gambling activity imaginable. I mean, at least horse racing, you got fancy hats, you got mint juleps. Cockfighting literally feels like two guys invented it after they were bored after a hurricane. So I swear, what?
Oh, it's not what Chicken George would say.
All right, look, I just don't get athletes. I mean, athletes scandals are just, they're getting worse. They're not normal anymore. It's never like, yeah, Edwin bought too many watches. It's always something like he's opening a Rooster UFC league outside of San Juan. So congratulations, Edwin Diaz. Elite closer, borderline Hall of Fame talent, fetishist for violent chickens, and officially my douchebag of the week.
Bravo.
I mean, these guys.
What a dude. It's just, you don't get it. You don't get it.
We're going to move on now. We had a lot of our loyal fans write in suggestions for things we should discuss, and a lot of them were great. 3 or 4 of them were really bad. I'm not going to get into those. You know who you are. Kidding. I'm kidding. So we're going to do several of them over the course of several episodes. We're going to do the first one tonight. And, you know, some of these people we know. I don't want to mention this person by name necessarily because I don't know if they want to be mentioned.
So, Paul, should we call this first person who gave us the idea we're using today Lord Flibbington?
Yeah.
Okay,
Lord Flibbington. That is what we call our friend Dave Fleischman. So this suggestion was that we discuss the most disappointing Boston sports figures of all time. We each came up with 2. So Ross, why don't you do yours first? We'll go back and forth.
I will. But just because this is what makes this fun, there's a lot of listeners who are going to say, what about this guy? What about that guy? I.e., what about Gordon Hayward? What about John Lackey? Honorable mentions, but these 4 are our top 4.
Yeah, you can mention other ones in the comments that you would have picked and why.
Okay, so my first, again, I seem to be the master of the obvious, Kyrie Irving. Such a disappointment. Played 2 seasons.
Could have been douche. Yeah. He would have been douche. If we were doing this back then, he would have been douchebag of the week almost every week.
Played 2 seasons for the Celtics, 2017 and 2018. The first season, he got hurt about midway through the season, didn't play through the playoffs. Second season, he played throughout things. It was a huge disappointment. The trade that was made to get Kyrie was made by Danny Ainge. Should have been an all-time great trade. Danny traded Isaiah Thomas, who never was good again because he had a hurt hip in his last game for the Celtics. So traded Isaiah, a big man who was a first-round pick who ended up being nothing, and the 6th pick in the draft who ended up being Colin Sexton, who I don't even think is in the league anymore, for Kyrie Irving. And when Kyrie came, for those listeners who may not remember, he was different than anybody the Celtics had like since Bob Cousy. He was like a magician with the basketball. He was cool, tons of style. He just was an incredible talent. But again, he had 2 years on his contract, so there was that little bit of a risk. And the first thing Kyrie did was he was at a Celtic event, and he told the crowd, "I'm going to sign with you so you don't have to worry about it." Here's what happened after that. As I said, he played his first season, played extremely well. Gordon Hayward, who was also on that team, destroyed his ankle in game 1, the first 3 minutes of game 1, but it did not matter. Celtics had a tremendous season. Jason Tatum was a rookie. Jaylen Brown was in his second year. Kyrie played very well, got hurt in the midseason, ended up getting knee surgery, never played again, didn't play in the playoffs. But that particular year in the playoffs, Jason Tatum blew everybody away. Brown was great. Terry Rozier was great. They had Al Horford. They ended up going all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals with that team with their 2 best players, supposedly best players, Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, hurt. They went all the way, went to Game 7 of the ECF, and they ended up losing to LeBron and Cavs. And then the next year, we came back. We're going to have Kyrie. We're going to have Gordon Hayward. We already have Al Horford, who was a young Al Horford at that time. We have Brown, Tatum. We've got Rozier off the bench. We have Marcus Smart. We have Marcus Morris. This is the team that everyone says is going to win the championship. The most underachieving, worst to watch team you could ever imagine. And Kyrie was the head of it. He was an incredibly poor leader. He talked poorly about his teammates. He was not around for them when they needed his leadership, and he ended up leaving, notwithstanding what he told the fans at the end of that season, as a free agent to go play with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. So that, my friends, was a as much as I disliked him, as much as I thought he was a jagoff, it was so disappointing. I would have loved to become a Kyrie fan.
Yep. I knew we had trouble when he came out and said he thought the earth was flat.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And he was serious. I was like, everyone's like, oh, he's kidding around. I was like, uh-oh.
And he was also like, remember he was offended by Thanksgiving?
Oh,
because there'd been like family who was Native Americans, which I kind of get, but it was just like, just shut up.
All right, that's a good one. My first one is Carl Crawford.
Oh.
On Tampa Bay, this guy was a beast. He hit 300, stole 50 bases, played elite defense, which is why in 2010, the Red Sox gave him a 7-year, $142 million deal. And Sox fans thought they had just gotten an absolute superstar in his prime.
5-tool player.
This was supposed to be the final piece of the empire. And what happened next is almost inexplicable to me. The minute Crawford got to Boston, it was like someone unplugged him. He became a different player. His first year, he hit 255, had a brutal 289 on-base percentage, and looked completely miserable. If you'll remember, he was one of the faces of the infamous 2011 Red Sox collapse. They were up by like 9 games, with 2/3 of the way through the season, and they didn't even make the playoffs. It was horrible. And the hype around this guy coming to Boston was insane. They introduced him like he was LeBron coming back to Cleveland. And then by year 2, Fenway crowds were reacting every time he got a single, like, oh my God, he made contact. That's great. I mean, he was horrendous. And then the injuries started. Wrist surgery, elbow problems, Tommy John surgery. The most consistent part of Carl Crawford's game in Boston was his MRI schedule. And after he finally got traded to the Dodgers in a giant salary dump.
Yeah.
Crawford basically came out and said, wow, Boston was toxic and I was really depressed there, which I thought was funny because Red Sox fans were depressed watching you play. The guy was being paid $142 million to hit soft ground balls to second base. So he definitely is one of my all-time disappointments when you look at contract to production ratio, right? The Red Sox paid for a high-performance Ferrari and wound up with a Chevy Malibu permanently parked outside a shop with the check engine light blinking. Failure.
Total. Devastating 5-tool player. And was that the chicken eating year? The year that was the year with Beckett and those and Lester, they had the fried chicken. I think it was. It was a disaster. Again, we've talked about.
It came out afterwards that yes, they were chicken, they were drinking beers.
Yeah, during the games.
Stuff.
During the games.
Yes.
It was just
that was it.
It was a disaster. I
remember that.
It was a disaster. Yeah. Nobody has drama like the Red Sox. All right, let me go to my next. Again, remember this is sports figures. Rick Pitino. Going to the Celtics again. Now, people may not remember that when Rick Pitino came to the Celtics, he was the hottest coaching prospect around. He had taken Providence and Billy Donovan to the Final Four. He had turned around the Knicks, so it made the playoffs, which showed that he could do it in the pros. He went back to Kentucky, where their program was in the total dumpster, and he brought them a national championship, lost in the national championship game. I mean, and Paul Gaston, who was the owner of the Celtics, when the Celtics had bottomed out with 15 wins, brought in Rick Pitino. And again, I cannot overemphasize the excitement that Rick Pitino was coming to the Celtics. Everyone tried to get him to go to the pros, including the Lakers. He wouldn't do it, but he would do it for the Celtics. So Rick comes in. tremendous fanfare, and the first thing he does is he demotes Red Auerbach from being president of the Celtics and names himself president of the Celtics, and basically gives some honorary title to Red Auerbach. Not too big of an ego. Then he coaches the team through the summer, goes through training camp, and the first game in Cap, remember this game? They played the world champion Bulls in Boston, and they beat the Bulls with Jordan. Do you remember in Pitino's first game? And I mean, I thought it's just a matter of time till we're back. We're back. But that is not what happened, because Pitino was always a pretty good coach for the Celtics, but he was also the president/GM, and that's the GM failed the coach because he made the worst decisions as a GM that killed that team. He thought when he came out that he was going to get Duncan, but the ping pongs didn't bounce right, and the Celtics ended up having the 3rd and 5th pick instead of the 1st and 6th. So they picked Chauncey Billups, and they picked Ron Mercer, who was actually a Kentucky guy. And what did Rick do? Well, he was so impatient, he traded Chauncey Billups after 51 games as a rookie. Well, that's not that big of a deal. Chauncey Billups just went to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay. Rick Fox was on that team. Good, excellent role player. Let him walk because he didn't think he was athletic enough. Well, that's okay, because Rick Fox just became a 3-time world champion for the Lakers. Okay. And he's also extremely handsome. He also signed Travis Knight and Andrew DeClercq for huge contracts. In the case of Travis Knight, he gave him a $22 million contract, which was gigantic at that time, after Travis had averaged a whopping 4.8 points and 4.5 rebounds the prior season. And here's one that most people don't remember. He traded Joe Johnson. Remember Joe Johnson,
Yes.
who ended up being a 7-time All-Star for the Hawks? He traded Joe Johnson after 48 games for Tony Delk, another Wildcat, and Rodney Rogers. Rip, our rest in peace, Rodney Rogers. The bottom line is this guy sucked. And what was the most problematic was when the heat was in the kitchen, he ran out of the kitchen. He had one of the most famous rants of all time of Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Larry Bird aren't walking through that door, fans. But what most people don't remember about that rant is he said, this is a great city, and there's so much negativity that it ruins the city. It makes it suck. Now, no one ever hears that part of it, but that's it, Rick. Make sure that you blame the fans, because that's going to get you really far. 4 seasons, 102 wins, 146 losses. I'm still bummed out when I talk about it.
Once again, it was expectation, and it's not just that he did. He just failed spectacularly. Like, it was a very dark time, and if you say that, everyone thinks of Pitino as like, it really tarnished him as a coach, I think, because even when he went back to college, he's never been considered as good, because how could you be? You had such a massive failure, kind of like Urban Meyer going to
Yes.
Jacksonville. Although it was worse because he was there longer and he did more damage, and he didn't just coach horribly. I think he did coach horribly as well, because he was one of these guys who brought a college style to the pros, and it didn't work and he didn't adapt. All right. My final one is a little more recent. It's N'Keal Harry.
Great pick.
Now, when the Patriots drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round in 2019, people talked themselves into this guy like he was going to solve the entire offense. Like he was going to, end inflation, like he was going to wipe out the national debt. I mean, he was the savior, right? He was a big body receiver, physical, red zone threat, wins contested battles. It seemed like Belichick had found the next weapon for Brady at the end of the dynasty. Really, people were so excited. They hadn't drafted a receiver in the first round in years, and this was like an appeal to Brady. He desperately needed help, and this was going to do it. The problem was that the second Harry got to New England, it looked like he was running his routes in Ugg boots. He couldn't separate. He couldn't get open. He had the explosiveness of a guy carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs. He was horrible. And remember the timing here. Brady desperately needed weapons. The offense was collapsing all around him. But Harry was not the answer, not even close. Over 3 seasons in New England, the stats were brutal. 57 catches in 3 years, 590 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's not a first-round receiver. That's a guy who gets pulled off the practice squad whenever someone gets injured. But what makes N'Keal Harry the all-time Patriots disappointment is who got drafted after him in the same draft. DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel. The Patriots passed on all those guys to pick Harry. All those receivers came out with Harry, and while they were like becoming all-stars, he was getting strapped by a 5'10" nickel corner from Buffalo. And the saddest part is I really believe if the Patriots have drafted any one of those receivers, not for sure, but there's a chance that Brady stays at New England.
Yes.
There's a chance that they win that 7th Super Bowl for Brady in New England and not Tampa. And that's why N'Keal Harry wasn't just a bust. He became the final piece of evidence in the case against Belichick, the GM. It was proof that the Patriots completely failed to give Brady enough offensive talent to keep him in New England till the end of his career. I think that was really the nail in the coffin in terms of the moves they made. So I felt like he was a disaster. All those guys together, all 4 of them, just huge, huge failures and disappointments. And I think partly because they all came with such incredible expectation.
Yeah.
Each and every one of them. And some had been phenomenal in other places, right? And some just
Crushing.
So anyways, Ross.
Yes.
We've rambled on. This has been a long. This is a lot of
rambling
for us.
I haven't seen you in a while.
We'll hit on some of these other ones that people sent in, and I'm going to try and lose a few pounds from New Orleans before I see you next. Hopefully this puppiness. A lot of this is just alcohol. If I could just squeeze it out. But it was great seeing you again. Great catching up. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next week,
All
buddy.
right, I love you. You're the
Take
best.
care, bud. Have a good